Hello everyone and welcome back to another Babbling Irons video, and currently international break, so no breakdowns, no analysis, but what we're going to do is break down the top 10 Premier League strikers in West Ham history. And there's going to be debate about this. I'm sure there's going to be a split of opinion, but there's nothing like a good opinion video to get things going for the international break. So yeah, without further ado, we're going to get into it. But before we do, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well, as it massively helps us out. And yeah, before we get into it, there are a few names that didn't make this list, which I'm sure will make yours. Just a few off the top of my head: Marlon Harewood, Diafra Sakho, Andy Carroll. A lot of good players on this list. A lot of good players, sorry, that didn't make this list. But we're going to break down my top 10. Again, just opinions. So let me know in the comments what yours is. And yeah, I'm sure there'll be a few different names. And you might go, what the hell am I doing? But that's what opinions are at the end of the day. But yeah, let's get into it. Number 10 spot, an absolute legend. Couldn't not put him on this list. And of course, that name is Carlton Cole. 47 goals in 207 games for West Ham in all comps. Scored some really important goals. I know this isn't Premier League specific, but when it got to that playoff final in the Championship, 2012, Carlton Cole was there. Scored in the final, assisted in the final. Set up that famous Vazte goal, and that was a massively important step up for West Ham at the time. And, Carlton Cole was a key part of that. And, he scored some really important Premier League goals. When it comes to this list, he's probably not the most technical or the best, which is why I've put him kind of 10th just for what he's done for the club. And obviously his affinity with West Ham since moving gives him some more points in my eyes. And since retiring, should I say. But yeah, Carlton Cole, West Ham icon, and yeah, scored some really important Premier League goals for us in important moments. And obviously the Championship playoff final speaks for itself. So yeah, he picks up the number 10 spot. And as we move down the order, I'm sure there's going to be debates about this, but let's move on to number 9. So at the number 9 spot is a player I didn't really see much growing up. It was a little bit before my time, or during the time where I wasn't really paying attention too much to what was going on at West Ham. But this player, from what I've seen and from what I've heard about, it was a very, very good player. And of course, his name is Frederick Knute. Didn't spend too long at West Ham, a few seasons, 76 games, and scored 27 goals. Now, that's a really impressive return, nearly a goal every 3 games. And yeah, just really good striker from what I've seen. Again, I can't comment too much on it because it was a little bit before I was kind of watching West Ham as I was growing up. But from what I've seen from the highlights, he looked like a very good player. And 27 goals in 76 games is a very decent record in that West Ham team. So yeah, Knute comes in at 9th, and I'm sure there'll be people that can enlighten me a bit more about him and what he actually brought to West Ham, because I'd like to learn a little bit more about him. But yeah, coming in at number 8, this player is, he would have been much higher, would it have been the kind of all-time West Ham strikers, but this is just Premier League period, and yeah, he would have been much higher. But it is a West Ham legend, Tony Cottee, of course. 23 goals in 67 games for West Ham during his second stint, should I say, which was when we were in the Premier League. Again, a decent return, just under 1 goal every 3 games. And yeah, obviously, if this list was all time, he'd be right up there in terms of the best strikers we've had. So yeah, just take that into account. That's why he's only at number 8 on this list, but still a really impressive record. And when he did come back to West Ham, produced some very good moments, and the goal record speaks for itself. So yeah, Tony Cottee was always going to be on this list, but yeah, maybe not as high as you thought. But moving on to number 7, this player, again, injuries happened, but what a player he looked like, and what a player he could have been, which is a real shame, because there's a couple of people on this list where I've said the same thing. But we move on, and yeah, John Hartson, very, very good player. 24 goals in 60 games is a really good record. Scored 20 goals in one season at one point for West Ham, and yeah, that's a very, very good return. And like I said, only played 60 games for West Ham, so can't really put him too much higher. But based on his ability, he could have been a lot higher if it weren't for kind of injuries and what happened around him. But yeah, Hartson, terrific player, excellent ability, great goal scoring record, and yeah, definitely deserved to be on this list. And yeah, that's why he comes in where he does at number 7. But as we move on into number 6, let's go, because we're almost at the halfway point. And this is a player that maybe splits opinion. Personally, I think based on ability and what he did when he came through the ranks at West Ham, deserves to be on this list. There's probably an argument he could have been higher, but I'm going to keep him at sixth. And, Jermaine Defoe. People will have their opinions on him for kind of how he left the club and, everything he said since. And, he actually's gone full circle and said he regrets how he left West Ham. But 29 goals in 93 games, coming through as a youngster, part of that really exciting talent pool that came through the academy in that kind of era for the Premier League of West Ham. And it's a real shame because he could have stayed at West Ham and again been so much higher on this list. And based on ability, he's right up there. And everything you'd want in a striker. Very sharp, very quick, excellent finishing, powerful finishing, left foot, right foot. Outside the box, inside the box. He kind of had it all really, and it's probably why he made the move to Tottenham at the time because again, probably a little bit of a step up, and kind of had to make the move with the circumstances that happened around West Ham at the time. But Defoe on ability, great player. Obviously, his off-field antics and how he left the club brings him down a little bit, but in terms of ability, Defoe was an excellent player for West Ham in the Premier League, and deserves to be on this list. So we're moving on to number 5, which is the halfway point. So make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the video if you are enjoying. And yeah, coming in at number 5, again, another player with injury record, but what a talent he was. And, growing up watching Dean Ashton, 15 goals in 46 games for West Ham. It's still a very good record, 1 in 3 games. It's just a real shame about those injuries because he had everything you would want in a striker. And, no doubt he would be absolutely thriving right now in the modern era of Premier League football because he had everything. He really did. Technical ability, getting in behind players, using his strength to kind of outmuscle players, his knack for scoring goals, the different type of goals he could score. Dean Ashton was right up there, man. He really was, and such a shame for him because he could have been such a big player, not only for West Ham, but for England, and I'm sure he probably would have gone on to bigger things, as we say normally with West Ham. But yeah, Dean Ashton was a player, and it's a real shame with those injuries, and definitely could have been higher. But for the reason of not playing enough games, he only gets 5th for me, and as that kind of leads on to number 4, a player that's played a lot of games for West Ham and is still playing for West Ham. And that is, of course, Michail Antonio, who came in back in 2015, last season at Bolin under Bilic. Played right back, really struggled to even get in the squad, made his way in, was then playing out wide. He's kind of been all over the place, but only in the last few years has he moved to kind of a central position to play as that forward. And, under David Moyes, he's just been unbelievable. And, the last 3 years, we finished 6th, 7th, and won the Conference League. He has been a massive, massive part of that. And, he's now our Premier League top goal scorer. He's scored so many different goals. He got 10 goals and 10 assists in one season, which is, again, not many things that West Ham players have done over the years, especially in the Premier League. So, yeah, I mean, over 60 goals in over 200 games for West Ham is still a very good return considering he's only recently moved to that striker position. And, he is key to everything that this West Ham team does. He's definitely getting on now, and there's, people will have their opinions on him right now, but I actually think he's going to go down as one of the more underappreciated players that we've had in the Premier League. And I think in 10, 15 years' time, people will look back on Antonio and think, wow, what a player he was, and so important for this team. And maybe not the best technically on this list, but, if you're going to have Antonio up top when he's playing like he can do and has done over the last few seasons, you wouldn't really change him for many other players, that's for sure, especially in this David Moyes setup. So, yeah, he gets number 4 for me, which gets us into the top 3. This is a player that might cause a little bit of controversy, but I absolutely loved him. I thought he had everything that I would want in a striker. And again, there's a few things that went wrong with it. And he weren't actually signed as a striker, similar to Antonio back in 2017. Of course, Michail Antonio. The way he departed the club was a shame. After getting 21 goals in 59 games for West Ham, came in originally under Bilic, got sent off away at Southampton on his debut, moved to the striker role under David Moyes, and him and Lanzini link up, unbelievable. Arnautovic had everything, left foot, right foot. He could shrug off players. He could bully defenders. He could get in behind. He had the pace. He had the finishing. He had everything. And I'm sure if we got him in his peak and he'd stayed at West Ham a couple of, 2 or 3 more seasons longer, he would have been our all-time Premier League top goal scorer right now. I really do believe that. And In terms of ability, I don't think there's many better Premier League strikers we've had, because he had absolutely everything. He really did. The only thing that people would kind of question is his attitude, which definitely changed when he moved to kind of the central position and was the main man of the team. But obviously, what let him down was what followed. You know, with the forced move to China, trying to move in January, all the antics around that. So yeah, he had the potential to go right up there for me. But again, longevity and the things that happen with Arnautovic puts him down to third. And the top two is it's hard to dislodge them from this list. But I'm sure you know who those two are. So let's get on to number two, who is Carlos Tevez. And only 7 goals, least on this list, but how important was he? The Great Escape season. If we'd have got relegated that year, we were in big trouble, really big trouble, and everyone wrote us off. I think most West Ham fans wrote us off in terms of staying up that season, but Tevez pulled it out, and it was only for half a season really that he came alive. The second half of that season in 2006-7, he was unplayable, and he had everything. Again, another player, work rate, technique, free kicks, really important goals, really important moments, and yeah, he was just an exciting player, and the passion and the work rate, it really resonates with West Ham fans. And yeah, for what he produced in that time, unprecedented in terms of that short period for West Ham in the Premier League. And the importance of it is crazy. It really is. So yeah, Tevez number two for me. And again, longevity wise, he could have produced some really good numbers for West Ham, because he went on to play some from really big clubs. But again, I think it was attitude problems that let him down in the end. And he'll probably look back on his career as a kind of missed opportunity to produce something a little bit more. But the talent was there, and as a player, wow, what a player he was. And even when he went on to Man United and Man City, he was a very good player. So yeah, he gets number two, which segues into the number one spot, which I'm sure you are all aware of and all are picking as well. Of course, it is Paolo Di Canio, 47 goals in 118 games for West Ham, an extremely good record. And he just had everything. I don't really need to speak too much about Di Canio to West Ham fans. Scored the best Premier League goal arguably in history, and just go watch his highlights if you haven't already. I'm sure everyone has, but what a player, and what a charismatic character. I think that's what also sets him apart. Just the way Di Canio was on the pitch. He was that superstar. He was that guy on the pitch when it came to, not only scoring goals, creating things, the talent he was, but just the aura he had. A really good player. And, of course, he was always going to come number one on this list. So, yeah, that kind of concludes my top 10 Premier League strikers of all time. Let me know in the comments what you disagree with, because I'm sure there is something. And yeah, leave a like on the video as always. And yeah, we'll come back with another one of these types of videos. If you've enjoyed, let us know what you'd like to see next. And yeah, again, any players I've left off this list, please let me know who you would put on there. And is your number one spot Di Canio? Let me know. Yeah, that's going to be all for today. And yeah, until the next time, come on, you Irons.